All right, it's 1 o'clock, everyone. This is Supervisor Luis Alejo, the chair of the Leadership Council. So we're going to see if we get started with introductions, because I know people's time is precious and getting towards the holidays, so we're kind of getting meeting out for the year. So we'll try to keep it as short as possible. So maybe we just go around and just introduce ourselves for those that are online while we're waiting for others to join us. And we could have our team just take role as we do introductions.
Hi, Mike, our Mayor, King City.
Good morning. This is Katrina McKenzie with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers.
Hi, I'm Elaine DeColony, the COC advisor.
Great, we got 2 for 1 over there.
Sarah Federico, Management Analyst for the Homeless Services Program with County of Monterey.
Right.
Roxanne Wilson, Homeless Services Director for the County of Monterey.
Greg Baker, AD Community Homeless Solutions.
Hi there, John Drake with Behavioral Health, representing Monterey County Health Department, sitting in for Elsa Jimenez.
Tim Evan, Access Support Network, and the chair of the lead.
Thank you, Tim.
Lauren Suwan-Supa, Monterey County Department of Social Services, here for Lori Medina.
Donna Smith, Monterey County Office of Education, Homeless Children and Youth Services Program.
Kurt Shockey, Veterans Transition Center.
Phyllis Katz, California Rural Legal Assistance.
Jocelyn Curran, Downtown Streets Team.
Others. I know a few folks are waiting to connect their audio.
I'm Crystal Estrada with the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers.
Great.
I'm also with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers.
And Kirsten Young with the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers.
Great. Any others who just joined in? We're just doing introductions and taking a role for voting board members.
Good afternoon, everyone. Keisha Lopez with the City of Salinas Homeless Services Manager.
Thank you. Others? Hey, Sarah Federico, you want to introduce yourself because you're new, right? And so,
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was just hired. I started last Monday on December 4th with the Homeless Services Program. I relocated from Nevada, but I am a former county employee. I was a MA2 for behavioral health a few years back, overseeing the adult services and children's services agreements. And then I also moved over and I worked interim as their CAO for almost a year. And then I went back to the county and worked with the RMA under the Parks Department, and I ran operations for parks for Monterey County. And I've been teaching in these years in between, and now I'm back to my roots for mental health and homeless services and all the things. So I'm very happy to be here.
great. And I just wanted so everybody gets to know you, and it also shows the county's putting some more resources, give some Roxanne some backup, so we got a dynamic duo at the county homeless services program. So earlier,
Lois, you're freezing.
So a few more. Katrina, I don't. Okay, sorry about that. Katrina, do we have quorum?
Not quite. We're 3 shy.
While you do that, okay. Other mayors, Oglesby and Kim. Well, I think Salinas is Kimberly is. Let me see if I can get her on as well. All right. While I do that, let's go back to the agenda here. Any additions or corrections? We'll try to go to the informational items first until we get a quorum. Katrina, so any additions or corrections?
Not on my end.
Okay, let's do any public comments for items not on today's agenda. Anyone want to speak to any items not listed on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, let's keep it.
I'd like to go.
Hi, I have a question, if I could. Sorry, I couldn't find the hand raised in time, Luis. This is Phyllis Katz, and I'm wondering if we could get a report on any unspent funds that are going back to the state at the end of this year or so. I was made aware that there's a number of funds that are not being spent.
I think
that's on number 9, the HAP 1 through 3 spend down update.
For Phyllis, are you referring to Home Key? Because there's a lot going on about Home Key.
You know, I don't have. What I was seeing was a report in general on social service programs that hadn't spent down their budgets. This was broken down by county, and so I'm just wondering if what's going on in terms of the funding that our group oversees, and whether or not there's any money that's not being spent, and so that we can have a conversation about how to do better with that, because there's so much need out there, and I hate to see anything not being used on behalf of the people who so desperately need it.
Yes, let me just get Katrina or Elaine. You guys want to answer that? Or is that going to be covered under the heat spin down update? If it is, then we can get.
It's not covered under the heat spend down update.
At that time.
Sorry, Supervisor, you're breaking up, but it's
not. Answer
not
quickly. The item.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you at all.
That's my bad on my side. I might have to log off and log in just a bit. But if you want to answer that briefly.
Yeah, so we're unaware of those unspent state funds. We can look into it and get back to the Leadership Council in February. I think that they may be talking about ARPA, which would not go through the coalition if that's what you're referencing, Phyllis.
I can try to get additional detail, and I can send that to you, Roxanne. And just over all the programs. Thanks.
Perfect. And if you could include the coalition on that as well, Phyllis, that would be helpful. And then Wes, you had a comment?
Wes White, Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Union. Just trying to throw it out there. I guess we're in some beginning phases of for the lead committee, creating some subcommittees, and I just want to throw some ideas that are more my personal, but as part of the lead committee, hopefully, like an ID card or some kind of way that folks outside, if sanctioned encampment is the goal. Permanent housing, however temporarily permanent that's going to be, running water, electricity, actual locations where people can be, buildings, structures, kitchen, bathroom, shower, laundry, preferably in their own unit. But if not, barring that, then some kind of ID card or county seal, from the coalition or CHSP or Leadership Council, whatever that says I'm identified in cars. I have a case manager, and we're all doing the best we can. So the police should not be able to just bother people and say you can't be here, especially if they're maintaining minimal health and safety standards, like it's not a blanket of trash, they're not committing crimes in front of anybody. Then they have to be assumed innocent. And we're supposed to be supporting scaffolding people, and an ID card, I think, would be helpful, at least in identifying who's harmless and not just homeless, that is interested in services, and that we've already promised that we're going to provide services to them. So the police should not be a part of that equation. And I'm looking for immunity from sweeps that way, some kind of ID card that says, you know, this is my case number in HMIS. This is my personal identifying number. You know, we need to get to this point where we stop recriminalizing people who are just too poor to afford rent.
Thank you, Wes. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for comments? I see a hat. Well, oh, just an applaud. Any other comments for items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no further comments, I turned on my video so I could not come out as choppy on video. Let's go to. Do we still need a quorum, Katrina or Elaine?
Yes, we need one more.
Okay, I'm going to go to the informational items first to see. So these are updates. So let's go to number 5. We'll skip 4. Go to number 5. So these are updates only.
Thank you so much, Supervisor. Kurt, would you mind providing an update on the recruitment for CHSP's Executive Director?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. This is Kurt Shockey. I was one of 6 members of the search committee. All members were the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers board members. So we had a very good panel, and between us, we've been searching for about 2 months. We worked with the HR firm contracted through the coalition, known as Insperity. They did a national search and returned 39 candidates to us. We then filtered these down to about 14, and we did resume reviews among the 6 members, and then we cut it down to 7 that we did interviews with. And then from there, we cut it down to 2. And currently, we have a formal offer out to our top candidate. He will come in within the salary range that was specified in the job, and the start date we currently expect it to be the 15th of January. I'll formally submit the name to Supervisor Alejo once it is formally accepted, and then he can make the announcement. But I think we had some excellent candidates, and I think we'll have some very good leadership at the coalition in the near future. In the interim, though, we're very grateful to Katrina. For the past 2 months, she has been filling the duties of the executive director and the director of operations, and she's done a magnificent job guiding the coalition. So thank you, Katrina.
Yeah, and I first want to thank Katrina and Elaine for stepping up when we needed them, especially Katrina there holding things up in the fort. So thank you very much on behalf of our leadership council. We're very grateful, and I know once we get once we're ready, we'll make sure to email all the leadership council the information of the chosen executive director, and then perhaps send out a press release as well. So any questions on this item on the executive director recruitment update? I don't see any. So let's thank you, Kurt. Thank you for all the work, the team that had to sit through those. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, Kurt, was just maybe some comments on the pool that we had. You know, sometimes this is difficult to find people willing to step up and do this work. So the fact that we had more interest in applying for the ED role, maybe you could speak to that. General.
Absolutely, Supervisor. We had a very good candidate pool. There were a lot of people interested in the position due to the mission. The area was an attraction for those that were not local, but the mission really attracted some very high-flying candidates. Most of them had extreme executive director experience. I would say at least half of them had worked in the homeless field, and I think we will be very happy with our final candidate. So I would say it was a really tough decision between the 7 finalists that we had, and I see Roxanne nodding. She was a part of all this, so it really was a tough decision, but I think we have some great choices.
Great. It is just good news to see that there is interest in the leadership roles doing this work. So thank you for everyone who was involved in the process and getting us up to this point. If there's no further comments on this item, then let's go to item number 6. It's also an update on the CARS overhaul update.
Thanks, Supervisor. I was wondering if we could share our screen. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Riley Neve from Homebase. I'm a research associate and I'm joined here by my colleague today, Meadow. Meadow, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey folks, Meadow Robinson, nice to be here with you.
Great. So we have a short presentation today because you have a packed agenda and it's December and we want to get out of here soon. So we'll try and be speedy. So what our presentation today is about the 2024 CARS evaluation project. You may already know that Homebase was contracted by the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers to conduct this evaluation of the CARS system in Monterey and San Benito COC. So we're going to give you a little overview of what the evaluation plan is going to look like, but we're really here to get an opportunity to gather feedback from the Leadership Council about what should be the important goals and research topics for this evaluation. So since we don't have a lot of time, we're going to just give you all a Google form survey that you can fill out in the meeting, or if you want to take more time after the meeting to fill it out, so we can get your feedback that way. And for context, our team this week has engaged with the Lived Experience Advisory Directive and the CARS Oversight Committee to also engage in these in-depth conversations about where the evaluation should go. So we'll go to the next slide. This is just an FYI, in addition to Meadow and I, there are 3 other Homebase staff working on this evaluation, Mark, Alex, and Mahir. So just over the next few months, you might see multiple names on emails or at meetings, and just wanted to flag this for you. And also, this team is different from the Homebase team that did the youth CARS assessment and work. And I think Alicia's here today to talk more about that. So we know you've been hearing Homebase a lot, so this is just to let you know this is a slightly different project, because this project is looking at CARS Overhaul, which CARS stands for the Coordinated Assessment and Referral System, and this CARS is Monterey and San Benito specific coordinated entry system. So coordinated entry really is like a front door to the homeless response system. It's how communities assess and prioritize and match people experiencing homelessness to housing opportunities, ideally in an efficient and consistent manner. So this looks different in every community, but every community does have 4 core components, which are on the slide here: access, assessment, prioritization, and referral. So when we're talking about our evaluation, we're going to be looking at every step of CARS to kind of better learn the system and see where there are areas for improvement. So why in an evaluation of CARS? Why are we here talking about this today? So one thing to note is that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, who's the federal entity that funds COCs, they do require some type of annual coordinated entry system evaluation. But this CARS evaluation project that Homebase is helping facilitate is going to look more deeply at the system than HUD requires annually, because we're hoping these findings from the evaluation kind of outline some improvements that can be made to CARS. 2019 was the last time an evaluation like this was undertaken. And the desire we recognize to conduct an evaluation like this for CARS came from all of you. It came from council members, it came from providers, people with lived experience, and other stakeholders. And there's been this pressure to make enhancements to CARS assessments and procedures over the last few years. And we want to maintain this type of community involvement in the evaluation process and identifying areas of opportunity in CARS. So that's why we're here today, to give you all a CARS evaluation framework survey. And I have one more slide before I pass it off to Meadow to talk actually about the survey that I've been hinting at. But before we do that, just wanted to present to you a project timeline, which is there are 4 stages. So since fall of 2023, Homebase, we've been doing some environmental scans and learning more about the COC from the coalition. And this environmental scan, we've been looking at policies and procedures related to cars. We've been looking at data as well. And then we've also are meeting with you all today and the lead yesterday in CARS oversight right after this to solidify the framework for the evaluation. And once we kind of have this framework outlined, we're going to engage with stakeholders through focus groups, interviews, and more surveys during winter of next year. This is really going to give us our rich data and information to write a report in spring of 2024. So this report will include our findings, but also recommendations for CARS. And Homebase will stick around to be part of the implementation process so we can help your community incorporate feedback and make actual improvements to the system. I'll pass it off to Meadow now.
Great, thanks, Riley. So wanted to quickly just talk a little bit about stakeholder engagement. We're sort of at the very front end of starting to plan for some of this. As Riley indicated, at the moment, we're really focused in on what is our evaluation framework, where do folks want to go deeper or broader in some cases? What do we really want to focus in on for purposes of this evaluation? Like Riley mentioned, there's those 4 core components, but a lot of different pieces within that, and a lot of different ways to sort of slice this evaluation, whether you're looking at sort of compliance, effectiveness, or sort of an outcomes-based, results-oriented evaluation. So lots of things happening at the moment with respect to building out that framework. But very, very next on our agenda, once we get that framework solidified, is really digging in and identifying who are the stakeholders we're going to engage and how are we going to engage them. So you'll see a couple different methods of engagement there listed on the slide that we anticipate utilizing. It's probably not surprising for folks, a mixture of focus groups, key stakeholder interviews, and surveys. And then it's really our intention to engage a really broad and diverse cross-section of folks to inform this evaluation. So again, there's quite a few different subpopulations and different folks listed in the provider category on the slide. And you can just see that that's sort of just a first list. Certainly our stakeholder outreach will not be limited to those folks, but just kind of that gives you an initial sense of some of the folks that we will be getting in touch with to really ensure that our evaluation is well informed by folks that both work in the system, experience the system, have had success in the system, have had potentially not as successful outcomes in the system, or maybe even been matched with housing at all. So we really want to get a really, like I said, diverse perspective of folks throughout those different categories. Important to also call out here that on our team we do have Spanish speakers, and so it's very much our intention to offer sort of these focus groups or stakeholder interviews in Spanish where necessary. We know that there are a lot of Spanish first language speakers in the area, and that's going to be a really critical component, especially as we see certain populations, especially Spanish speakers, on the rise in homelessness sort of nationally and we would assume locally, but are waiting to see the data from our team to be analyzed on that. So just wanted to offer that. I think the other important thing to say here, beyond the timeline, so that stakeholder engagement we anticipate will be between January and March. This also means that likely many of the folks here and in other places that Riley mentioned where we have popped up and talked about stakeholder engagement this week, will be a part of these stakeholder engagement processes, whether that's asking for your all input on who do we engage, how do we get to the right people, sort of can you help us set some of that up, or if it's in you individually to do some of these key stakeholder interviews. So just a flag that this is something that's happening kind of beginning of the year into the spring, and you will definitely be hearing more from us very likely in terms of how to help us kind of curate those lists or actually just engage with us to inform some of the research questions and analyses that we'll be doing. as Riley mentioned, and I dropped the link in the chat, because we don't have a lot of time today, we are hoping to collect your feedback that will help inform the evaluation framework and some of the input on stakeholders in this survey. So we're hoping that y'all could do that by next week. So it kind of gives you a week timeline. Anticipate that survey will take you 10 to 15 minutes, I would say maximum. Primarily what we're looking for there is if you haven't clicked the link and want the quick preview, is to understand the level of understanding of each individual council member about the current CARS system, and then get a sense of like, what is your level of interest in continuing to sort of support that work or understand that work better, so we can sort of get a baseline understanding of like, where is this group's level of understanding generally, and how much more do they want to continue to understand or be integrated into CARS in general, or this evaluation process. And then, like I mentioned, certainly an opportunity to weigh in on important stakeholders. If you have either groups of folks, this may be individuals, this may be groups, this may be providers that are top of mind for you, that you want to make sure sort of get on that short list as we're starting to curate and better plan for what's coming from January to March. There's an opportunity for you to do that in the survey, as well as offer your insights on which of the goals. We offer 5 goals that are in that survey that are taken from the environmental scan. One of the primary components that we pulled from was previous CARS evaluations that had been done that said, hey, here are some outstanding areas that need a little bit more depth, a little bit more focus. And so those goals are listed out in the survey, and it's you're invited to just weigh in on what you think, sort of how you would prioritize those goals, or how important you think those goals are to this evaluation framework. So your feedback, the feedback from the other 2 committees we were at this week, will help us sort of finalize the framework, and then we will start the digging in the new year. So again, survey link is there. We will also work to circulate this to you all in the best channel to make sure it doesn't disappear in the chat once we all log off. And I think that is all we have to chat through today. I don't know if we have a couple of moments for questions. I know we were trying to be pretty short.
We'll go through that. First of all, Riley and Meadow, thank you very much for your work on this. We really appreciate it, and we know that it's important, and it's great to have your focus and expertise helping us go through this these next several months. For Katrina and Elaine, hopefully we can get the link also emailed to all our board members, so that even those that are not on the meeting today could fill that out. And if we could give them a time frame of when Meadow and Riley are trying to get these completed by next week. And everybody's going into the holidays, so hopefully they get it before they take off on a family vacation or holiday fun.
Definitely, we'll put it out right after this meeting.
Great. Okay, any questions on this for Riley or Meadow? Okay, I think you covered everything. I don't see any hands going up. So thank you very much on this one. But I think the next one is also yours. It's our CARS youth policies. Maybe
that would be Alicia.
Okay.
Everyone, and I will share my screen as well.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. Everyone, our colleagues at Homebase did a wonderful job kind of introducing the CARS redesign process. We used a very similar process in thinking about youth CARS. We're going to talk a little bit about what that process looked like. We are coming here today with a request to move forward into another phase in that process and implementation. So just a quick overview of what youth CARS is. This is the portion of Monterey and San Benito County's core entry system, or CARS as it's called, that is designed specifically to meet the needs of youth and young adults experiencing homelessness. We know, and we've heard from our colleagues, how important core entry is as that process to keep people moving through the system of accessing housing and services according to their vulnerability and need. We want to make sure that all parts of your system here in Monterey and San Benito counties work as effectively as possible to ensure equity, accessibility, and efficiency for people seeking housing and services. Just a little bit of context for Youth Cars redesign. This came out of conversations that have been happening in the community for many years. Thinking back to the the 100-day challenge on youth homelessness, which took place back in 2020, there were areas identified there for improvement around really ensuring that youth are able to access the system, considering youth who are already on the by name list, maintaining connections, and making sure that really those principles of equity are really ingrained throughout all components of coordinate entry. So access, assessment, prioritization, referral, matching, and placement. This has been a common topic throughout youth systems meetings, which have continued on since the 100-day challenge and bring together youth with lived experience as well as youth serving providers here in Monterey and San Benito counties. Different conversations have happened around how we can make this system as effective and equitable and accessible as possible. Those conversations have also been taking place in Youth for Action meetings with Youth for Action members. And then thinking through the needs of Monterey and San Benito County around coordinate entry was a big part of the youth homelessness demonstration program planning process. And so there is information in the tidal wave of change to wash away youth homelessness, your coordinated community plan, that really details some of the goals and action steps wanted to see around making changes to coordinate or to the youth coordinate entry system. And then there was also kind of funding identified to help with that improvement process. Some of the things that were identified through all of those conversations, this ongoing effort to identify and improve youth cars, include improving access points at youth serving agencies and institutions through outreach, developing and implementing a youth and young adult driven and specific assessment tool and process that is trauma informed, adopting a prioritization approach that more accurately captures vulnerability and need among youth and young adults, specifically in Monterey and San Benito counties, refining a referral system that considers participant needs, case manager input, and agency specializations. And with that, really investing in case conferencing that can bring that person-centered approach to that referral process. And as we've talked about, I already mentioned this a couple times, but we always want to keep equity and accessibility at the center of this work while still ensuring that quick access to housing and services that folks need. So this was the vision, and also wanted to share that the vision was for this to be a community-led and driven process, as well as really youth-driven and youth-led. So really doing all of these pieces in close partnership with Youth Systems Meeting and with Youth for Action. With that, I am going to hand over the next piece to my colleague, Matt.
Hi, everyone. Good to be talking to you today. So Alicia kind of provided the overview of what we've been working on. I'm going to start diving into the timeline and the specifics, and then we're going to talk through some of the changes that have been made to policies and procedures, and where we're at today in our next steps. So as you can see here, we are, at least according to this slide, at the end of a relatively long process beginning last summer when we did some scoping and summarizing and road mapping for the process that we were going to go through. But since last October, we've really been in the center of all this work with the redesign of the youth cars system. So beginning last October, we worked with youth systems leaders and Youth for Action on the development of a new youth cars prioritization scheme, on the development of a new assessment tool, and associated testing and work with that tool to incorporate a diverse range of feedback and make sure that it was really accomplishing what we hoped it would in terms of identifying vulnerability and need. That process took almost 9 months. It was completed in July. Simultaneously to that, we have been working on developing and formalizing a set of policies and procedures that we'll discuss in some detail in a little bit to guide the operation of youth cars. We've been in conversations with CHSP, with youth experiencing homelessness, with youth providers, to really try to build a youth cars process that will work well for everyone in the community, including both providers and youth who are experiencing homelessness, and then trying to formalize that process so that CHSP can manage it going forward into a concrete set of policies and procedures that we're here to talk about today. And we have basically reached that point where both the assessment tool, the prioritization scheme, and the policies and procedures are all in complete form, and we're ready to move on to implementation. So this is kind of our last step before we move into the implementation phase. But before we get there, we want to talk about what we have developed over the past year and a half with youth providers and with youth experiencing homelessness in Monterey. Next slide. So this is where we are this month. We are reviewing the policies and procedures and the new assessment tool with the HMIS and CARS Oversight Committee, and then we're moving forward on a request for approval to begin implementing the new youth CARS system with its associated policies and procedures and assessment tool with both Youth for Action and with you all today. So that is where things currently stand as of now, and from there we're going to talk about what we have actually done over the last year and a half and what we've created. Next slide. So the thing that we started with, first of all, was developing a new prioritization scheme for youth and young adults experiencing homelessness in Monterey and San Benito counties. What we were focused on was kind of that HUD requirement of prioritizing youth based on vulnerability and need, and really drilling down with interested parties in the community about what exactly vulnerability and need means in the Monterey and San Benito context, how we can identify higher or lower levels of vulnerability and need among the population of youth and young adults that are experiencing homelessness, and then once we had that prioritization scheme in place, moving on to how can we collect the information that we need in order to implement it, which is what the assessment tool is. So what was developed was a set of 6 factors, more or less, 2 of which were labeled high priority and were given more weight than the other factors in the final prioritization scheme. But the 6 factors were folks who were fleeing violence and unsafe situations, folks who were residing in an unsheltered situation. So those are the first 2, and the 2 that were given high priority in comparison to the rest. And then in addition, the other 4 factors were youth or young adults who are expecting or caring for a child, so pregnant or parenting. 4, youth or young adults who have a history of systems involvement. So you can think about this as criminal justice involvement, foster care involvement, healthcare system involvement. Basically, those system involvements that would lead us to believe that person was more likely than not to have a higher level of vulnerability and need. That was factor 4. Factor 5 was disconnection from personal support networks, resources, or systems. So do you have access to people that can help you is basically what that is getting at. And then our 6th main factor was youth or young adults who have been facing discrimination or other difficulties attaining or maintaining housing or employment. So really drilling down on whether youth or young adults had experienced discrimination that was preventing them from maintaining stable housing in the long term. And then lastly, in addition to those various prioritization factors, we do have one tiebreaker in the event the prioritization scheme results in 2 people being prioritized equally, and that is length of time homeless. So who has experienced homelessness the longest is kind of the ultimate tiebreaker, all things being equal. Next slide. In order to implement that prioritization scheme, it's necessary to collect information about those 6 factors. And the way that we have gone about doing that is by developing a new locally created youth with youth input assessment tool to incorporate into youth CARS. We focused on a couple of goals when we were creating it. One was that we wanted it to be brief, taking as little time as possible to collect all the relevant information. What we came up with was a set of 13 questions that take less than 10 minutes to complete. I think even 10 minutes is a bit of a stretch, but it takes less than 10 minutes to complete. So it's brief, it's easy for both the assessor and the person experiencing homelessness, the youth experiencing homelessness. It is focused. It doesn't ask any extra questions. It is focused purely on the information that we need in order to prioritize youth for housing and services. So the questions align with those 6 categories plus one tiebreaker that I just talked about. And finally, it's youth and trauma informed. So we developed it in conjunction with the YAB, and we also went back and forth through multiple rounds of testing the assessment tool to make sure that we had the phrasing right, that it was clear and understandable to people who were receiving it, that it was likely to yield accurate information, and that it was meeting its goals of implementing the prioritization scheme that had been developed. Next slide. This is where I turn it back over to you, Alicia.
Yes, and I am just going to really quickly talk about the youth cars policies and procedures. So there had already been processes and procedures in place before the development of the written policies and procedures and before this redesign process. What we did is we created a specific set of written policies and procedures for day-to-day operations of youth cars to help formalize and standardize those processes, as Matt mentioned, to make sure that to support administrators of the system as well as youth and young adults accessing the system. So we wanted to define clear roles and responsibilities for all the partners involved in youth cars, create clear expectations, once again, making sure that it operates in a way that's consistently equitable, accessible, effective, and efficient, and create clear pathways for accountability. As part of the packet that was shared prior to today's meeting, that full set of policies and procedures is in there. And so we're not going to go into depth on those, but some things you'll see in there, once again, formalizing and standardizing things that are already in place. Also implementing a process for case conferencing and really being clear about how the referral process is made. So making sure that how referrals are made to the system, how folks are connected, and how that engagement and maintaining follow-up with youth is sustained so that when a referral is ready, youth are identified and we can make that process go very quickly. So that is, I know that we are out of time, so going to wrap it up there and open it up for any questions. And I'll hand it back over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alicia and Matt. Again, these are all very important parts of the work that we do. They are requirements, and we appreciate your expertise in these areas because you help us enhance these policies and procedures. You're subject matter experts, you know, when carrying out these aspects of our work. So I want to just say thank you, first of all. Let's open up for other questions and comments from the board on this. This is agendized as action, so hopefully we got a quorum now. Alicia, we're going to need just an approval of the packet.
Yeah, so we are asking for approval to move forward with implementation of the youth cars policies and procedures and use of the new assessment tool and prioritization scheme.
Perfect. That will be the motion needed here. So, Katrina, do we have a quorum?
So, we have 2 members that haven't participated in quite some time, so I would like to leave it up to you, Supervisor, to make the decision if you want to just call it as we've met quorum because they haven't participated in at least 5 meetings.
Okay. Yeah, well, there's still members until we take any other action otherwise. So, but we appreciate them. So we do have a quorum. Let's just go with that. It's our last meeting of the year. I need a motion and a second, and then we could just do take a vote.
Oglesby with approval.
Thank you, Mayor Oglesby. Thank you for joining us. Need a second.
I second. Roxanne.
Okay, Roxanne, second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those
Aye.
Okay, got a lot of ayes. Those against? Okay, motion carries unanimously by those present and voting. Okay, great. If we have quorum, then let's just go back quickly to number 4. This is just the consent agenda for the November minutes of the housing pipeline and then the October minutes for the Leadership Council. And if I could have a motion in a second, then we can get that out of the way.
I just have a recommendation, Supervisor.
Yes.
There were a few typos on the Housing Pipeline Committee minutes. I just sent it over to Katrina this morning, so she probably hasn't seen it. Otherwise, I think that they're fine. I actually have to recuse myself now that I think about it. I wasn't at the last Leadership Council meeting. Never mind.
Okay. So we can take a motion to approve the minutes just with those corrections, grammatical, typographical corrections. So that shouldn't be too difficult. That way we could just get that out of the way. And I need a second to approve those.
LeBar motion with those conditions.
Okay. Is there a second?
Shockey, second.
Appreciate it. Now we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Okay, we'll deem that motion approved unanimously by those present and voting. Let's now go to our point in time count. That's an important one coming at the end of January. It's right around the corner. We're going to go on the holiday break, and we're going to come back to something very important in front of us. So let's go to that update.
Hi everyone, my name is Mahnur. I'm the governance coordinator here at the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. I will be taking over to present on the point in time count, and I just wanted confirmation if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so the 2024 point in time count, okay. Just to give you a brief overview, the point in time count is a count of sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single night in January as mandated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The importance and purpose of point in time count cannot be understated, because point in time count help us establish the dimensions of the problem of homelessness, and they help policymakers and program administrators to track progress towards the goal of ending homelessness. And this has been mentioned on the National Alliance to End Homelessness on their website. So our 2024 scheduled point in time count date and time, as you can see on the screen, it will be scheduled on the January of 31st, 2024, between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. Just to give you a few updates in how we've been planning the point in time count, we had the point in time count kickoff meeting this October 24th, and we are actively recruiting volunteers for the point in time count to make sure that we have enough folks, boots on the ground to cover tracks both in Monterey and San Benito counties. And then our outreach team from our partner agencies are crucial, and their importance cannot be overstated for the point in time count. So far, CHSP, the Coalition, and ASR, Applied Survey Research, who are our technical assistant, who have been helping us strategize for a successful point in time count for 2024, have been meeting with different outreach agencies, and we have been assigning different tracks for them to cover. So far, these are a few examples of the successful meetings that we've had, and since then we have had a few more meetings, and the list continues to grow. But so far we have CHE, Community Health Engagement, their outreach team, we have SORT, we have Dorothy Place. I was also able to pull in the Community Action Team by Monterey Police Department, and City of Pacific Grove recently have also expressed their willingness to volunteer. We are still recruiting volunteers for the unclaimed tracks besides this. And so the survey tool, we're using the same survey tool which has been used previously for the point in time counts that have been held before. The second point on the slide is integrating McKinney-Vento. ASR has had the opportunity to to meet with Donna Smith, who's the program coordinator for Homeless Children and Youth Services program at Monterey County Office of Education. And so we are trying to integrate the McKinney-Vento numbers from schools for children from birth through 18 years of age. And I just wanted to show a brief snapshot from ArcGIS, the geographic information system software that we are using to track which tracks have been claimed for Monterey and San Benito. And as you can see, the ones that are in red have already been taken, have been claimed by the outreach agencies, and the ones in blue, we are trying to recruit volunteers for them, or we are in conversations with different outreach teams so that we can have these tracks claimed as well. And I believe that is it from my side. If anybody has questions, I would be happy to answer.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Thank you. There was some background noise that made it a little hard to hear. But I guess the first question would be if we have a flyer that we could send out, post up. But I know from the county, we'll send it to our public information officer to also send to our county employees to try to see if we can get more volunteers. But with the volunteers, two questions. One, is there training for them, for those that haven't done this before? And number two, last time we used an app on our phones that made it easier to kind of input the data as we're doing counts early morning. So maybe if you could just answer those two.
Right. Thank you so much for your question. I apologize for the background noise. We have a small office, so everyone can hear each other. So I apologize for that. The first question, was it on the training? Because I know you asked it.
Yes, training for volunteers, especially new ones.
Right, awesome. So right now we're trying to onboard as many volunteers as we can, and with ASR, probably early to mid-January, we will start conducting trainings. So we will make sure that the folks that we have, we conduct either an in-person or hybrid training, so that way everyone is familiar with how the process is like, so that we can do a successful count on the day of the 20-time count, January 31st. And what was your second question again? Oh, about the phone? I believe it was the phone. Yeah, I think we will be using the same technology, and if there are any updates, we will make sure that we have an orientation so that all the folks who are supposed to use technology on the day of have their questions answered, and that we have everyone on board so that we can plan this successfully.
Thank you, McNor. So yes, we will be using this technology as last year as far as the application on smart devices, as well as hard copies if needed. So one other additional item that wasn't brought up was that we are looking for a Salinas deployment site. If anybody has a location that the coalition can use to set up shop for the day of January 31st, so that volunteers may come in to get maybe last minute volunteers that need training, or people that do not have smart devices and need to get hard copy census tracts. So if anybody has a space that the coalition can use, please reach out to McNor or myself, and we can try to broker some sort of deal. And then Roxanne has her hand up.
Wait, I have one more comment.
So yes, to give the shout out, so thank you.
Yeah, hold on. One more comment, Ms. Abbasi, and that had to do with the potential integration of McKinney-Vento data with the data that's normally collected in the point-in-time count. I just want to flesh that out more, because that could have major ramifications, because the McKinney-Vento numbers are one, it's a different definition, right? Because those include children who are living in overcrowded housing, and in our county, I think there's 8,000 or 9,000, right? So our normal counts are about 3,000, and if you add McKinney-Vento, it's gonna skew the prior numbers that we've been measuring, right? And so there could be some major ramifications. Publicly, it's going to show that our normal point-in-time counts have skyrocketed since the last time. So I think there just has to be some more put into that, and making sure that it's consistent with how other counties in California are measuring their homelessness under the current formula. So just wanted to flag that.
I can that portion of it. So McKinney-Vento numbers are always included in our count as a subcategory, not into the major number that we have, because it is double ups and shared housing aspect. It's not always literal homeless. It's a different definition of homelessness. But what we're trying to do is increase the participation of the homeless liaisons through Monterey and San Benito counties, because it's a big push for those organizations, for the schools to put in that work to extract those numbers. So that's just a clarification on the McKinney-Vento integration.
Thank you, Katrina, for providing that. That makes me feel more assured.
Yeah, I know
I've done it that way in the past.
That's out on that one, yeah.
Thank you.
So, Roxanne?
Go ahead, Roxanne.
Have you guys finalized the survey? That's usually like a huge point of contention as far as the survey, and I was just wondering what's the status on that, because I haven't seen anything.
So I will just give an overview, and then I can hand it over to Elaine and Katrina. So ASR, they have incorporated what HUD has asked to update the survey with, but on that, we are happy to incorporate if there's any feedback, and well, when it's out, we will make sure we have everybody's feedback and hear from you guys.
There is the standard HUD things, but then there's also extra questions that sometimes our community wants to ask. And last year there was not, or last time we did the pit, there wasn't that much contention. The only thing that we asked was to add the question if somebody was an ag worker. But we didn't get enough numbers, so that actually didn't come to fruition in the report. But yeah, I was just wondering if you guys have finalized that. Thank you.
So we brought it up to the committee last meeting, I think it was last week, and it's going to be sent out for review. But to my understanding, there was quite a bit of changes that took place in the survey. We added the COVID questions, the fire questions, and yes, the ag worker questions, and we wanted to try to keep it the same right now, so that there's some sort of trend happening. The more times that we change the survey, the less data we have to carry over. So like I said, it will be sent out to the committee, and feedback will be taken, but they didn't bring up any changes at the last committee meeting.
Great. Any other questions by any other board members? Okay. Well, thank you very much for all the work on this. This is the big one, so we really appreciate all your hard work on this. If you need any other help, or please let us know so we can email our board come January, because I know there's going to be January 31st next month. Okay, so if there's no other questions, let's go to number 9. This is the HAP updates, and we have some important items here, especially around King City.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Magnor and Katrina. I will be providing the HHAP updates. Next slide. Okay, so this is for HAP Round 1. HAP Round 1 was awarded $3.1 million, and as of November 30th, 2023, $2 million has been expended, leaving a balance of $831,000. The spend down for Round 1 is on track, and any required allocation measures will be brought before the Leadership Council in the August 2024 meeting for deliberation and discussion. So here just gives you a little outline. Okay, so for Round 2, there was 1.5 million awarded, and the total expended as of November 30th, 2023 was $364,000, leaving a balance of $1.1 million. The coalition, however, is requesting action on reallocating $47,942 of King City or City of King contract originally approved for capital for permanent supportive housing to operation for interim shelter. Next slide, please. Okay, so for round 3, there was $4 million awarded, and as of the end of November 30th, 2023, $656,000 has been expended, giving a balance of $3.3 million. Round 3 has recently entered into contract with subrecipient, and Coalition is in the process of finalizing one more contract and is proposing repurposing of a portion of the City of King's allocation from the Home Key project to use operating an interim temporary homeless shelter. So the coalition is optimistic that upon approval and execution, the program funds will be fully expended by the 2027 deadline. Next slide, please. Okay, so for HAP round 4 of the $3.1 million awarded, $50,000 has been expended. Monterey County's allocation of the $2.2 million, and the County of San Benito with $393,879. The amount to go out for the RFP, which is scheduled for February 2024, is $1.8 million, and the award recommendations will go to the Leadership Council to be held either in April or June of 2024. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here is the HAP for round 4 obligations. The round 4 obligations include the $50,000 to City of King, and that was approved by the Leadership Council on June 23rd, 2023, to support emergency temporary homeless shelter. $255,000 was awarded to CHE. That was approved by the Leadership Council on June 28th, 2023, to support homeless outreach engagement services system. And it shows that 7% of the award will go to CHSP admin and 10% for the use that's set aside. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cover really quickly the HAP round 5 updates, which include creating a regional plan, engaging with public stakeholders, and creating an MOU between participating HAP applicants, which include Monterey County and San Benito counties. So we are working on drafting the narratives for the Regional Coordinated Homeless Action Plan. It is required to be published on the respective websites and finally approved by the Leadership Council. The plan will include the narratives on entity roles and responsibilities, system performance measures and performance improvement plan, equity improvement plan, and place-based encampment resolution. A plan to reduce institutional exits to homelessness, plan to connect people to benefits, and the status of policy action. The coalition and the County of Monterey are in the process of drafting 2 MOUs, one with the County of Monterey and the second with San Benito County. We have also engaged public stakeholders by hosting multiple community input sessions that allow the public to participate in online survey to share thoughts on how the HAP 5 funds should be used in the community. So we've hosted a community input session at the Lead Me Home Summit, one at BAX in Salinas, Monterey Conference Center, and we also held a virtual session with the City of Pacific Grove. And the last and final session, which was very successful, was held in the city of Soledad. So as of today, and this is excluding the surveys taken at the Soledad community input session, we've had over 320 respondents to the survey. So really quickly, this just goes over the HAP 5 available funding, and here's the breakdown of the available funding, showing the $9.5 million planning allocation, the $760 million base allocation, and the last column is the initial $100 million supplemental funding allocation. And that completes my updates for HAP 5. Did anyone have any questions before I bump it over to McNor to handle the governance portion of it?
We need to go back to take a vote on the allocation for King City.
Yeah, and maybe put that slide. I think it was on round 2. The reallocation
Yes.
was 47,000 something.
Is this the one?
Round 2.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, it's requesting the reallocation of 47,942 and 95 cents to the City of King's contract original for the operations of the interim shelter. And I just want to let everyone know very quickly, you could Google it later, that there's been issues with Shangri-La Construction or Industries. They were a nonprofit based out of LA, but they had taken the lead in partnership with the City of Salinas originally for the Home Key, the hotel conversion at the Goodnight Inn. And then secondly, they had partnered with King City for a similar project down there. But there's been various articles, but there was a real estate newsletter that went more into detail about their troubled finances, defaulting on loans. Once they were able to get the grant from the state HCD, they would purchase hotel properties and then immediately go and take out more loans on those properties as collateral, and then shortly after defaulting on those loans. So if you just Google Shangri-La Industries or construction, you'll be able to read that more on your own. But it caused us to have to step in, and I know our Monterey County is in communication with the City of Salinas and King City to see how we could partner to make sure we could secure those projects and making sure that we could complete them, number one. Number two, so they're not in jeopardy, so that we could actually use them for its intended purpose to serve our homeless residents and families. But in the meanwhile, those in King City that have been encouraged to move out of a riverbed and go into temporary housing, we want to make sure that we continue to fund them until we can find a solution and get that hotel conversion project completed in King City. So I want to go to Mike Labar if you want to add anything, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it is an extremely frustrating situation, and I just can't believe that it's happened, that someone would do this to the most vulnerable people. But financially, for the King City project, not only did they get the money for the hotel, but they also received the renovation and the operation dollars for the full amount of the grant. We're just trying to figure this one out, but thank God we have a strong partnership throughout the county with the COC, with Chair Alejo, with the county. Otherwise, this could be really, really bad. Our goal is the same as it always been. We are going to find a path to get this project done and get them in permanent supportive housing. We were very successful in cleaning out the encampments and finding a place for them to stay. It's been over a couple months now, and that has been through the help from Roxanne, the county, the COC, and all of our other partners. So we're not deterred. We're just pissed. So thank you.
Thank you. That was nicely said, Mayor, because it really is upsetting. This work is hard enough, right, with many barriers and obstacles to get our families into a better situation, but then to have one of our partners do this when these projects are so critical and they're under short timelines, it's even more frustrating. So I take it with all due seriousness, but I wanted to reassure the City of Salinas and King that Monterey County is partners with you, that we want to make sure that we can work with you, work through this to find a solution, working with our state Housing and Community Development Agency, because this is not only in our county, it is where they have projects not only in California, but even in other states. And I was reading an article in North Carolina where they've done the same. So this needs to be investigated, and the state needs to step in to help our local governments that we're doing the right thing, and so that we could hopefully claw back that money and finish these projects out. They had applied all over the state in partnership with Step Up, which is supposed to be the other nonprofit that was supposed to operate these hotel conversions. So there's also some concerns regarding step up as well. So, Roxanne, you want to add anything? I'm trying to hold back on saying more, but I just wanted to give enough to alert our leadership council that this is a very serious issue in our county and in other counties in California.
Yes, thank you so much. It certainly is a major issue for the continuum of care as well, as we have invested $2 million in rounds 2 and rounds 3 into the home keys. So it is very good that we're having this conversation at this level. I have had the pleasure of speaking to several leaders on the state level. They're clearly unable to share details of how far along they are and exactly what their approach is going to be to either recover these projects, recoup money. They're fairly tight-lipped for good reason. We, as the county, have been exploring internally as well how we can support, if we're going to support, like in a more substantial way. And we're having those very long conversations internally about what our role is and how can we ensure that King City, especially King City, who is a smaller jurisdiction, gets everything that they need and also ensures that the people who are internally sheltered in the other hotel are not discharged back onto the streets after being inside for so long and stabilizing. So we're still at the very beginning of it as far as the county's concerned. We are still, I think, digesting all of the information that is coming at us, and it's coming at us fast. But we are very supportive of the City of King, and even the other company that was mentioned, Step Up, they seem to be victims to this as well. So as Supervisor Alejo had mentioned, all of this is Googleable. You can certainly look it up and see what's going on from what the news has put out. And that's, I mean, actually what the news has put out is essentially what we know as well. There was $147 million that's set aside from HAP Round 5. This is money that was supposed to be bonus from Round 4 and I think Round 3 that was never actually spent. I have engaged with the state asking what are they planning on doing with that $147 million, because inside of the HAP Round 5 NOFA, it references it's a home key supplement that will be RFP'd in June. So the state and I have had many conversations about different funding streams that we could possibly have access to maybe, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the county when I say we, I mean all of us, can maybe intercept the project from the bank utilizing funding that is already available to the community. So as we get more information, we hope to have a better pathway forward, and we'll be able to share it once we figure that out.
I want to go to City Salinas. Anything you want to say on this? Okay. So just to let the board know that the Board of Supervisors last week also, as this was an emergency issue, also put up some funding to assist in this effort. So as we said, we're partners with the City of King and the City of Salinas on this. This also concerns because our county also contributed funding towards these projects, and I even asked our county council to look at how we could collaborate with the cities on just looking at through the legal lens, right, of what we need to do in partnership to secure these projects. So this is for that $47,942. So we just need a motion to approve those fundings to be repurposed for this cause.
I move. This is Roxanne.
Okay, Roxanne moves. Is there a second?
I second it. Tim.
Tim, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Those against? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Was that all on this part? On number 9?
Yes. And then, yeah, HAP 3. We need one more motion, and it's the same concept, but we're just repurposing City of Kings allocation from capital to. This is actually just operation.
From permanent housing operation to interim housing operations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, from permanent housing operations to interim shelter.
Great. Do we have a motion on that? This part. Anybody, please.
Obviously moved.
Thank you, Mayor. Second by.
I'll second, Supervisor.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Are we done with this?
Great.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Labar. We're with you on that. Okay, let's go to item number 10, new governance implementation. Try to keep this brief. We're almost to the end, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so the governance implementation recommendations. Just a quick overview of what we are going to be talking about in this section is that once the governance charter was approved by the Leadership Council in August, there's a lot of things that we need to start working on, which comprise the implementation, which I will be discussing here. I helped design this. This is basically the governance structure for the COC. We have the Leadership Council at the top, and then we have the advisory boards, which are LEAD, our Lived Experience Advisory Directive, Youth for Action, CHSP members. Then we have these 4 standing committees, and then we have the ones in the blue colors. We have the subcommittees, and then we have the general membership. This is taken from page 5, chapter 6, overview of the governance charter. So as you can see, as I will move through the slides, these are the standing committees that we need to implement that have not yet been set up. So we do have these subcommittees, and they work, and they are doing fantastic. They're making fantastic progress, and these are the standing committees, as I already mentioned, that we need to help implement. So number 1, these are the recommendations that we came up with is the annual membership meeting for the COC, and we need to decide whether we schedule this in the May or June of 2024, so that we can have an outreach and recruitment to join, to help invite new members to join the coalition, and then hold elections to fill about 6 seats on the Leadership Council. This means that we will have to reactivate our governance committee, which will help us plan and hold the elections. Then recruit people to serve on the new committees, which I just talked about, which were mentioned on the slide, such as the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, and then Services Coordination. Number 2 is reactivating the governance committee, as I already mentioned, and we plan for this to occur in the January of 2024. So we need your support to work with the staff to help plan the annual meeting, to plan for the elections, and then seat the committees. Number 3 is establishing the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, our working group ahead of the annual meeting. So if we start ahead of the annual meeting, this would allow us for crafting a grievance policy, and then number 2, a monitoring protocol. Moving forward, number 4 is the Services Coordination and the Planning Committee. These are the other 2 committees. So these committees can start after the annual meeting takes place. And then number 5, the conflict of interest. We would appreciate if we could reach a decision on when the Leadership Council members are ready to sign the conflict of interest forms, whether that's at the beginning of 2024 or after the seats are filled. And that is it from my side.
Any questions on this? Anybody? Maybe we could mute the mic there. Okay. Any questions on this item? And maybe we should aim for early next in January. Just emailing the board that the conflict of interest form, and that way we could get those mailed in. And then we'll just keep tabs on how many we have. The other item I know that our board could do, talking about our quorum, is the board members can appoint their alternate. So I think we have a form that was developed in our approved changes to our governance structure. So maybe we're gonna get that form just so that when you cannot attend, we need to have that form that that's signed by you, that designates your alternate. That way, that person can vote when the principal board members cannot attend. Is that correct, Elaine?
Yes, and Supervisor Alejo, that's helpful direction to just go ahead with requesting those things. And then the other thing that we were hoping the board would support today is targeting the annual meeting for May or June. Well, we can refine the exact date, but kind of giving ourselves about 6 months to get ready for it. And then reactivating the governance committee, adding some members of the lead. The lead met yesterday and they're very excited to get involved in supporting governance. Tim can probably speak to that, but and establishing the monitoring and evaluation committee. We think the work that is assigned to that committee in the governance charter is really critical, and it's a critical hole in the way the COC operates now. There is not a grievance policy, and that came up repeatedly in discussions with the lead. And we really need, as Alicia was referring to, formalizing and standardizing the approach to monitoring. It's a regulatory responsibility, and it would be good to have that committee getting started on that in the beginning of the year.
Great. So that would be the considered for a motion today to do that, to reactivate the governance committee starting in January, and then sending out the conflict of interest form and the alternate forms in January, because I know now it's going to get lost in all the end of the year and holiday celebrations going on. So early in the year, if we're able to take a fresh look and get those items out of the way. And then I would just say maybe aim for June as our annual meeting, just because it's at the end of the fiscal year going into the summer. So it gives us also 6 months to prepare a plan for that annual meeting, Elaine. So
great. And are you good also including monitoring and evaluation in your motion, and we'll send around invitations after the holiday? Great.
Yes. Let's take it to the board though for any questions or discussion on those, and then we'll entertain a motion that we can keep moving on the agenda. If there's no questions and comments, could I get a motion in a second to on those items that were just covered?
Barr, make that motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second it, Evangelina CHS.
Okay, thank you, Evangelina. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those against? Motion carries. Thank you very much. OQ Systems NOFO and HUD TA.
Thank you. Can you
5
go
minutes.
to the next slide? Okay. So there was a youth systems NOFO that has come out that is due in February. It's really around building out the systems for youth, data entry, data gathering, coordination of homeless assistance projects. It's a really great opportunity. If I can get next slide, please.
Oops, where's my camera go? There.
And here's the funding plan. The eligible applicants could be nonprofit organizations, city or state, county governments, tribal entities as well. If I can get next slide. But after further analysis in this, it's a very highly competitive process with a very short deadline to do it, and right now, our recommendation is to not go for this funding stream, as it really doesn't align with our current year 3 plan through the Leave Me Home plan. And right now, the staff, with the different leadership transition and staff vacancies, it's just something that we cannot take on right now. And it's just, we wanted to bring it up to the attention of the Leadership Council that we've seen this funding stream, we analyzed it, and we're recommending others to go for it at this time. And should it come open again, that we would definitely apply for it in another round.
And I want to add to that, a lot of what this funding source is funding is the work you all just voted on with the HUD, CARS, policies and procedures. So this is not a direct service grant. It's about building the system. So it's system level planning. And HUD has made clear that they want to see, they're favoring multiple COCs or statewide applications. So I think with the work the coalition needs to do on the HAP projects and standing those up and focusing on getting those spent down, and given what already has been accomplished in the youth system, it isn't necessarily the most strategic use of staff time to go after a new source of funds with new deliverables and contracting expectations at this time in your implementation of the Leave Me Home plan and of all the work that's involved in HAP right now.
Great. And Elaine, and for our board, when we discussed the gender review, we thought it would be a better way to be transparent with you, the board members, to be aware when there are grant opportunities, but that perhaps don't match where we're at right now, and we also have limited resources and staff time, so we got to be strategic on what we pursue and what we don't. But rather than just not staff say they didn't pursue it, we thought it'd be better to bring it to the board's attention, explain the reasons why. And that way you guys are aware of why, and if this comes up down the road, you know why we took that particular action, but it doesn't preclude us from pursuing it in the future. Roxanne.
I just wanted to add on to that. A lot of what Katrina said, and Katrina had said, when we were ramping up to compete for YHDP, a lot of the work that this NOFA would pay for has already been accomplished. We already did a gaps analysis. We already established a Youth for Action board or Youth Action board. We've done so much of that work, and I appreciate the transparency of the coalition, and I also agree that it's not the best use of our time. And we, just getting other COCs on board, while I think it's possible, all the COCs I'm talking to are just dying with HAP 5. So yeah, I just wanted to just co-sign to the things that they were saying. We did so much work with YHDP. This would be great for a community that's pursuing YHDP. It helps you align you and understand what needs to happen. So thanks everyone for the work that you're doing.
Great. Any discussion on this item before we go to the HUD TA? If not, any action is needed. We'll just give that as a report given. Since I don't hear anybody want to take any action on it, but we'll just deem it as a report given and received by the board. We could go to HUD TA, wrap up.
Yeah, so this is I think this is a quick one, because when we initially submitted this, we were asking for your guidance about, so one of the things as the COC advisor you all invited me to do was help get your arms around the various TA that is either being provided by HUD or the state or paid for by the coalition. And this was one that sort of came in at the tail end of Genevieve's term, and it kind of overlapped with the CARS overhaul investment that was already being made for through HIP. So we talked to them like, could we use you differently? And so we're bringing to you a request to go forward with this HUD TA, but to use it differently. And initially, we thought we were going to have to ask you to prioritize, but what we heard from the TA team is they would be happy to ask HUD if they could support us on all three of these things. And so I think the one cautionary note that I would say about HUD TA is that TA providers work for HUD. So in the end, they have to go back and ask HUD if anything you want them to do is okay with HUD. So, you know, I think we want to be thoughtful that these are important things that have to move forward in the COC, and you want to be thoughtful that you don't leave them entirely in the hands of the HUD TA, but that you all are actively engaged, or you have some consulting support that is, you know, working for you in developing these things. So I think it's just the chance to close the meeting with saying yes to a gift from HUD and instruct the staff to negotiate with the HUD TA so it's well used.
Right. I think your recommendation sounds good. 30 hours of technical assistance appreciated for these good three purposes. Any discussion on that recommendation? If not, if I can have a motion in a second, take a final vote here. Sarah?
Aye. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I second.
A bit of a motion, and is there a second? Okay.
Sarah's not officially listed as my alternate yet.
Okay, Roxanne, let's go to Roxanne. Yeah, exactly.
So I'll make the motion.
And now we do have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Angelina, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those against, that motion is deemed approved. It's the end of the year, our last meeting of the year. Everyone, I want to thank all our staff. They work hard for us. And I want to thank all of you, especially for your leadership, your passion, your dedication. We're in a transition mode with our Coalition of Homeless Service Providers, led by Genevieve, now to a new director that will be announced very soon. We had a challenging year because we had some storms and we had to mobilize to care for our unhoused residents. So I thank you for all those who helped. We had some shelters set up throughout the county, and including the fairgrounds, where those services were so critical for the January and the March storms. Last thing I want to announce, I have an open house today at from 5 to 7 at my Salinas office. I'm teaming up with one of our board members, Salinas Mayor Kimberly Craig. We do it every year to collect backpacks and winter clothing, and raise some money to get gift cards for all the children staying at the Salinas Share Center. So I think we raised almost $5,000 in money, and we're collecting backpacks and clothing items today and through next week, and we'll deliver those at the end of next week on Thursday or Friday. So we started that with the late Mayor Joe Gunter in 2018 at the temporary homeless shelter, and it's continued to this day, so that the holidays for our kids there are a little brighter. So with that, I want to just say happy holidays, everybody. Thank you very much. Happy New Year. We'll see you next year. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Have fun, everybody.
Bye, everyone.